Welcome on into the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. This is episode number 68 of season 2025. We are halfway through the final series. There's only 3 games left of the AFL season, which is ridiculous. 2 prelim finals and a grand final the following week. Today's episode, we're going to preview the 2 semi-finals that happened. Did I say review or preview? We're going to review the 2 semi-finals from the weekend, the Adelaide Hawthorn game and the Brisbane Gold Coast game. So we'll review them in full detail. Then we will jump into preliminary final previews for this upcoming weekend. And we'll finish off with our footy tips for this weekend. If you're new around here, we do 2 episodes of the podcast every single week. It goes live on Mondays and Thursdays. Monday episode every week is a look at the AFL men's world. So at the moment, it's obviously fully focused on finals. And then on the Thursday episodes, it is AFLW. So we preview and review all the AFLW action on Thursdays here. Don't forget, we also have plenty of social media stuff, All Aussie Rules everywhere. YouTube has plenty of videos going live, including season reviews for every team as they get knocked out. So go check them out. Plenty of content all over the internet, All Aussie Rules everywhere. I don't think there's much else to go through in terms of housekeeping. It was a big weekend of football, obviously, just the 2 games in the men's competition, but big results in both of them. And hypothetically, probably not the best result in terms of what the AFL would have liked, if I was to guess what they wanted, because we've pretty much got the final 4 teams are like the four of the 5 most successful teams over the last probably 20 years in the competition, which is crazy. Hawthorn, Geelong, Collingwood, Brisbane. If you add Sydney in there, then you've probably got the top 5 in terms of premiership and grand final appearances, outside of maybe Richmond, I guess, who had that one little period of success, whereas the other 4 or 5 have been pretty consistent over most of the years. Probably not perfect for the AFL, and probably not perfect for the neutral supporters. I reckon there's a lot of people trying to decide who to go for out of these 4 teams, because there's a good chance that if I didn't go for one of these teams, I'd be searching far and wide to try and come up with which team I'm going to go for. So it's not perfect situation in terms of that, but I mean, they are successful for a reason, these clubs, and they continually do it year in, year out, just about. So we'll see how it goes over prelim final weekend and grand final. Hopefully we get some close competitive games that go down to the wire, and maybe it will be exciting still. Let's jump into the information for today. We start with Friday night. I was going to say Thursday night. It was on Friday night. It was Adelaide Hawthorn at the Adelaide Oval. First on the ladder v8 on the ladder. And oh dear, what happened to the Crows? After finishing minor premiers, finishing on top of the ladder, they lose back-to-back games at the Adelaide Oval. First against Collingwood and then against Hawthorn. And they get knocked out in straight sets. First minor premier since 1983, I think it was, to be bundled out in straight sets. Basically, a disaster, really. The way that Adelaide's season finished was just, terrible for them. The final weeks on and off the field just couldn't have gone much worse. Self-inflicted, some of it, obviously, but the results just weren't there, is basically the long and the short of it. This game started with a flurry from the Hawks. There's no doubt about that. Gunston kicked one straight away. That was like a minute in, 28 seconds in actually, so not even a minute. Nick Watson then got one, and then Carl Lamont got one as well. And they had 3 goals in the first 5 minutes of real lifetime, not just playing time. So an incredible start from the Hawks, had the Crows on the back foot from the start, and it was looking very danger signs at that point. The Crows did fight their way back in that first quarter to at least tie it up with 5-6 minutes to go in the first quarter. Thilthorpe Keys and Peatling all got a goal each, and it was level through like the 20-minute mark to the 25-minute mark of the quarter. Then Nick Watson got one to give Hawthorn the 8-point lead at quarter time, which not massive, but certainly a handy little lead. Any lead you can get is sometimes very, very important. Second quarter was a very low-scoring quarter after a 7-goal first term between the two teams. There was just 2 goals kicked in the second quarter. Josh Weddle got one of them, and Dylan Moore got one late in the quarter, and that was enough to give the Hawks 19-point lead at halftime. Third quarter, it opened up a little bit more. It ended up being 5 goals Hawthorn to 4 goals for Adelaide, but 4 goals for Adelaide was not enough when you're conceding 5 the other way. Some poor kicking from Hawthorn maybe kept Adelaide a bit closer than they should have been, but they're 5 goals down at 3-quarter time, and then Gunston kicked the first goal of the final quarter, which was probably the nail in the coffin. There were a few more goals kicked. Adelaide ended up with 3 goals. Hawthorn also kicked 3 goals in that final quarter, but 2 of those Adelaide goals were the last 2, so it was all over. That third quarter, fourth quarter, it was just a consistent onslaught really from Hawthorn. I think clearly they were the better team in this game. We'll go through some of the stats very shortly, but just from watching it, you just felt like Hawthorn were much better prepared and ready to go in this game. And I think the stats will tell us that as well once we go through them. Team ratings, Hawthorn 49-8, Adelaide 41-6. Unsurprisingly, that's basically the exact same team rating margin that Adelaide had last week against Collingwood. So 2 bad games in a row from them. Hawthorn, though, they're flying. You take out the third quarter or the last 6 or 7 minutes, really, against GWS last week, and they've played 2 really, really great games of football in the finals so far. So, massive from them. Looking at some of the team stats here, Hawthorn had an extra 25 disposals in the game. The disposal efficiency actually was quite poor from Hawthorn in this game. Adelaide went at 3% better than the Hawks, but that doesn't mean a whole lot. Plus 21 inside 50s for the Hawks. They absolutely demolished them. Forward halftime was 59% in favour of Hawthorn, so they just had the territory all game long. Adelaide had no answer for it. They couldn't get it out of there. Hawthorn were getting their hands on the ball first. They won the contested footy by 31. They won the intercept game by 14. They won the clearances by 6. No team will ever really lose a game of football if you're winning clearances, intercepts. Like you shouldn't. The only way you would is if you kicked poorly in front of goal. And Hawthorn, while they did kick poorly in this game, it wasn't enough for them to lose. Ended up being, 33 shots for the Hawks and 22 for the Crows, so plus 11 shots. There's not many stat categories here that the Crows actually won on the night. Hawthorn were definitely the better team on the night, and the Crows didn't have an answer. Transition numbers, definitely in favour of Hawthorn here, pretty much across the board, especially anything that involves scoring, but like change of score, plus 11% for Hawthorn. Defensive half to score, plus 8%. Defensive 50 to score, plus 7%. It was just pretty much across the board. Hawks were better. It's very hard to find a way to suggest that Adelaide were in this game in any way, really. Kick-ins, Hawthorn didn't score, but Adelaide got 1 goal, 1, so they won that area, I guess. Stoppage, they actually scored more from stoppage, even though they had less clearances. But that's, once again, due to Hawthorn's inaccuracy. 4 goals, 5 from Adelaide, 5 goals, 3 for Adelaide. Turnover scoring, though, is where the Hawks did it. They absolutely smacked Adelaide in the turnover game. It's an area of the game that Adelaide have been pretty good at this season, but they got absolutely smacked in it here. Hawthorn kicked 10 goals, 12-72. Adelaide managed just 4 goals, 3. 45-point loss in turnover scoring. You're not going to win too many games if you concede 45 extra points from from the turnover game. The turnover point scoring is one of the key factors most seasons in who wins and who loses a premiership. Most of the best teams are going to be one of the best teams at the turnover scoring, and Adelaide didn't show up when it mattered most. Hawthorn absolutely did. So that will be crucial for them next week as well, because just a little spoiler before we get into the Geelong Hawthorn preview, Geelong are probably consistently one of the best, most highest scoring teams from turnovers. So how that game between Hawthorn and Geelong eventuates will be certainly very interesting. Scoring from the defensive half, Adelaide actually did okay, even though they didn't transition. Overall, their numbers weren't great, but they did kick 7 goals 4, whereas Hawthorn were 4 goals 8. So they did okay there, but forward half scoring was Hawthorn. No surprise when you look at the time in forward half at 60% basically for Hawthorn that they would score a lot from forward half, but 61 to 21 plus 40 points is quite a massive margin. And centre bounce scoring was 8 points for Hawthorn, 0 for the Crows. We'll jump into some player stats now, because I'm sure you're all very interested in that. You can see the top 5 players in our rating system on your screen for both teams. Firstly, for Hawthorn, they won the game, so we usually start with the winners, so why not again here? Highest rated player, once again, Jai Newcomb. He had a 92.08 rated game in the All Aussie Rules rating system, which was, I think, the second highest of the weekend and the third highest of the final series so far, only behind Caleb Sarong last week and Will Ashcroft in the other semi-final. Fantastic game from him. Absolutely dominated the game. 28 touches, 6 inside 50s, 16 of those touches contested, 6 intercept possessions, kicked a goal in the second half, 9 score involvements. Did I say 9 or 10? 10 score involvements, 3 tackles. Really good in the clearance game with 8 clearances. He just did everything he needed to and had another fantastic game. Jack Gunston was their second highest rated player, highest rated key forward game of the final series so far. Could have had an absolute bag. Kicked 5 goals 3 from 8 shots at goal. His year has been fantastic and he just continues to do it. Can he do it for 2 more weeks? I guess we'll find out, but he has had a fantastic season. So he was the second highest rated, get us 8 votes for that. Lloyd Meek, 2 big games in a row, really stepping up this final series. Not that he's been bad all season, like he's been pretty consistent and pretty good, but his two finals games so far, he's been in their top 3 players both of the 2 games, as has Jai Newcomb obviously as well, but a fantastic effort from Lloyd Meek in the ruck. He absolutely won that ruck contest over Riley O'Brien by the length of the Flemington Straight. There's no doubt about it. He was so much better than Riley O'Brien in this game. Next up, Josh Battle gets the 4 votes. A really good key defensive role from him. Won the ball when he needed to. He had 17 touches, 11 intercepts. Really, really good game from him. And still had 6 score involvements as a key defender. That's a really, really good effort from him. And the 2 votes goes to Josh Ward, who's finishing the season quite well. Certainly above his average in this game. He had a lot of contested football. He had a lot of centre bounce involvements. Good pressure rating. Really good game from him. He gets the 2 votes. Other good players for Hawthorn, you go down the line, there was plenty of them. Dylan Moore was the next highest rated. He was still rated as an elite general forward in this game, so good performance from him. No one lower down was rated elite in this game, but other good players, Blake Hardwick was top class. Sam Butler was really good in this game. Nick Watson, certainly early. Jack Scrimshaw was really good as a general defender. Carl Lamont was solid. Connor McDonald, James Sicily. Chol has had a good final series. Then it's Warple, Connor Nash were going down into their lower rated players. I mean, they weren't terrible, but they're lower rated players. They didn't have too many terrible performers. The lowest rated player that played more than 50% game time was Impey. Had one of his lower rated games of the season. Jack Ginnivan really struggled to have major influence on it. He was 39th best on ground. Tom Barras, low rated, but did his role sort of thing as a key defender. And that's basically Hawthorn's team. Really good across the board, in all honesty. Like, you're looking at most of their team rated as at least average or better. There was only maybe 4 players outside of the sub and the starting sub and the player that was subbed off that rated below average. So pretty good numbers across the board for Hawthorn in this one. Jumping across to the other side of the fence to the Adelaide Crows, their highest rated player in this game was Rory Laird. For comparison's sake, Jai Newcomb rated a 92.08. Rory Laird was a 75.83. So quite a way off the number of Jai Newcomb. He still played really well and was actually quite good in both of their finals games, even though they lost them both. He had 30 touches, played mostly back, but did have 29% centre bounce attendances, so did go into the middle a fair bit. 5 score involvements, got a goal assist, 13 pressure acts. He played solid throughout, one of his better games of the year, but unfortunately didn't get enough support from others in the team. Their next highest rated player was Josh Worrell, who actually had his highest rated game of the season. Even better than the game he had against Collingwood in round 22. Was that round 22? I think it was. Really good numbers from him again. He had a lot of the football, 33 touches, but 12 intercepts. Most amount of intercepts on the ground when his team certainly didn't dominate the intercept game. So he did really well in that area. 10 marks. Only the 3 score involvements, but I mean, he's a key defender, so you don't expect too many from him. 3 votes went to Wayne Malira, who, for example, was the 9th best player on the ground. So that suggests that there was 6 Hawthorn players and 2 Adelaide players above him. He rated okay. He played pretty solid. He had, what did he have? 23 touches in the end. Not a great game, but certainly was very solid. 7 score involvements was, I think, equal best in his team, if not best. Might have even been the most in his team. So, pretty solid performance from him. Riley Thilthorpe gets the 2 votes. Well down on his average, I guess. Not well down, but certainly down on his average, and certainly down on his averages over the last 6-7 weeks, where he's been really, really good. He wasn't bad in this one. He just was nowhere near the level that he has been kind of producing over recent weeks. 12 touches. He had slightly less ruck time than last week, but did kick the 3 goals, which was obviously crucial. In a team that only kicked 10 goals, he kicked 3, so he was very good. He just maybe didn't quite do as much around the ground as he'd previously been doing. And the final vote for Adelaide goes to Jordan Dawson, who was well below his average of the year. He had an average rating this season of slightly over 70. This game might put him below 70, I can't remember, but he's around about the 70 mark, and he averaged, well, he didn't average, he got a rating of 51.37 in this game. So basically 20 rating points down on his average. Still in their top 5 players, but he was well below what they needed from him if they were to win this game. He had 21 touches, which that's not the be-all and end-all of Jordan Dawson's game. He doesn't get massive disposals. He did get 610 metres gained, which was the most on the field. But he just wasn't getting enough clearances. He was probably getting beaten a little bit too often in the middle there. He had 4 shots at goal and only managed 1 behind. So, like, that sort of stuff is what kind of turns the game in a negative sense away from your team. Daniel Curtin, he was next rated, best rated player for Adelaide. Missed out on votes, obviously, but solid game from him, solid season from him. Brodie Smith was next, then Max Michaelani, James Peatling, and then you're moving your way down to the players that were average or below average. If we go to the bottom of the list, their lowest rated players were not the ones that were starting sub or subbed off, which is usually an issue. Taylor Walker had very little impact. He was the lowest rated player on the ground that played at least 50% game time. He really struggled to have much effect on this game from the start. He had just 7 touches. He had 3 shots at goal, didn't kick one of them. Had 6 score involvements, but 2 of them were his behinds, obviously. Luke Pedler, another forward that really struggled to have much impact on this game. Then Sam Berry. Riley O'Brien, as we said, was absolutely smacked in the ruck. Zach Taylor struggled to have much impact. Hinge was subbed out. Josh Rochelle kicked a couple goals, but started sub, so only played half the game. Nick Murray struggled. Darcy Fogarty struggled as well. So 2 of their 3 key forwards really didn't have a huge amount of impact on this game, kicking just 1 goal between Fogarty and Taylor Walker. Too many players not producing enough in this game. Ben Keys, another forward that really struggled to have much impact. I know the ball was sitting in the Hawthorn end for big periods, but they just were really struggling to make much ground on getting the ball out of there. That's pretty much a wrap on that game. Hawthorn go through. They play Geelong at the MCG on Friday night in a preliminary final. That will be an interesting game. Probably worst case scenario for Geelong, but we will fully preview that very shortly in this same episode, so stick around. Adelaide obviously eliminated. Not that this is a stat that I should bring up, but it's something that I saw earlier and it just fascinates me, I guess. Alex Neil-Pullen, I kind of feel a bit bad for him, but his last 3 final series, he's gone out in straight sets, all 3 of them. So his last 2 at Melbourne in 22 and 2023, and now this year at Adelaide, straight sets 3 times in a row. So that's a disappointing result. I'm not at all blaming him. He had a really good season. Wasn't great in this game or great in last week either, but pretty disappointing for him, I would imagine, that stat. We'll move on to the other game from the weekend. Now, this was Saturday night. It was Brisbane and Gold Coast, which the Q Clash, Gold Coast first ever final series. It was always going to be a fascinating game, this one. And I don't know what to say about it too much. The scoreboard looks like it was dominated by Brisbane, and that's probably a fair summary of the game, I guess. There weren't too many periods after quarter time where Gold Coast genuinely looked like they were in with a chance. The first quarter was very competitive. The first quarter felt like both teams were trying to fight for that centre corridor, and Gold Coast got it a couple times in the first quarter. Whereas Brisbane also managed to get it, but when Brisbane were having to force their way in with good disposals, mainly from Zorko, but also a couple others like Charlie Cameron and a couple other elite foot users to force their way into the centre, whereas when Gold Coast were getting it, they were just getting free run at it, and it was looking like that was their chance in the game. But after quarter time, that completely changed, and Brisbane still kept forcing their way into the corridor, but Gold Coast were unable just to create that run through the middle that they got early on in the game. A little story of the match, I guess. Gold Coast kicked the first couple, Ben King, and then Noah Anderson kicked one from 60, and it looked like the Gold Coast Suns were on. But after that point, it was definitely one-way traffic. I mean, it was 14 goals to 4 after that point. Logan Morris got one, Cheek kicked one, and then Ben King got his second, Berry got one, and it was 3 goals apiece at quarter time, 1 point lead to the Brisbane Lions. And then after quarter time, it was definitely one-way traffic. It went goal for goal at the start of the quarter, but then a couple for Brisbane, and then they finished with the last 3 of the quarter as well. So they had a 25-point lead 9 goals, 6 to 5-5 at half time. And while it wasn't over, it certainly felt like it would take a miracle from there for Gold Coast. It just felt like Brisbane were complete control of this game. Will Ashcroft was having an absolute field day. Arguably one of his best, if not his best half of football that he's had so far. He was absolutely fantastic, covering for, obviously, Lachie Neale's out of the team for potentially the rest of the year. He might make back for grand final, who knows, but really, really good from him. They came out of half time and managed to kick 3 goals to 0 in that third quarter. So you're looking at 2 quarters of football and Gold Coast have managed 2 goals, whereas Brisbane have kicked 9, and that's basically all you need to know. Lohman with no hair kicked the first one of those. Bailey got one, and then Ty Gallop also kicked one. We kind of breezed past it, but in the second quarter, Cam Rayner did kick a goal from almost the halfway line. Granted, it rolled through. Maybe should have been a free kick to Gold Coast for a push in the back, but go check that out. It was a cracking goal from long range. Ty Gallop, as I said, kicked that third and final goal of the third quarter for the Brisbane Lions. That was his first ever goal in AFL football, only his 4th match. He just came alight in the last 5 minutes of that third quarter. Took a couple good marks, tackled, kicked that goal. He was fantastic in that little period. Didn't have the biggest game of all time, but that little period he was really quite good. Final quarter, it was a bit of a stalemate for the first 15 minutes before Ainsworth got a goal. Then Zach Bailey and Lohman both kicked 1 each to close out the game and give the Lions a 53-point win at the Gabba over the Gold Coast Suns. As you can see, if you're watching this, if you're just listening, the team rating 50.72 for Brisbane, a 40.13 for Gold Coast. That tells you that all the numbers are going to be going the favour of Brisbane Lions here. They absolutely smacked them in pretty much every facet of the game after quarter time. Looking at said team stats, total disposals plus 60 odd, almost 58 or 56 or whatever it was for Brisbane. So quite a lot of extra disposals. Disposal efficiency was pretty much dead level for both teams. Metres gained, which is an area that Gold Coast typically do quite well in. They had 1,000 less metres throughout this game. So it was just going one way a lot of the game. Plus 11 inside 50s for Brisbane. Slightly more forward half time, 51.6% time in Brisbane's forward half. Contested possessions were plus 7 for Brisbane. Ground ball gets plus 13 Brisbane, so they were getting their hands on the ball really well. Intercept game plus 4 for the Lions. Clearance game plus 18 for the Lions. So just like we said for the last game, if you're winning clearances and you're winning intercepts, you're going a long way to winning the game of football. Marks plus 30 for the Lions, so they just controlled the football for big periods. Intercept marks 15 to 10 in favour of Brisbane. Total shots 34 for the Lions, just 18 for Gold Coast. That's a big discrepancy right there. I think expected score is about a 50-point margin, so pretty convincing in most ways here, Brisbane. Change of score percent, really quite good for Brisbane. Poor from Gold Coast, plus 9% there for Brisbane. Across the board, Gold Coast weren't terrible in transition numbers, other than their ability to score or have shots from them. Score sources, Brisbane kicked 2 goals 2 from kick-ins in this game, so that shows how well they did transition the ball. Gold Coast got 1 goal straight. Stoppage scoring, no surprise here. Brisbane won it. Should have probably won it by more. They kicked 2 goals 9, whereas Gold Coast 2 typically are a very, very good stoppage scoring team. Could not in this game, but not only that, they just couldn't even get behind. 1 goal 2 from stoppage is a really, really poor performance from Gold Coast. I haven't looked at the full numbers, but I would say that would be their lowest this season off the top of my head. I can't think of a game when they would have gone lower than that. Like Brisbane Lions could have kicked, if they had to kick straight, 11 shots, kick an extra 20 points, they would have absolutely blown this game out. Scoring from turnover, 10-5-65 for the Lions to 4-9-33 for Gold Coast. Obviously inaccurate in that side of things for the Suns, but 32 points down from turnover scoring. There's just no way that they could have won this game based on these numbers. Defensive half scoring, Brisbane, as we said, transitioned really well, 53-20. Gold Coast were inaccurate in that side of the fence, 2 goals 8. And then forward half scoring was 46-26 in favour of the Lions. Inaccurate from the Lions there, 6 goals 10. Centre bounce. There was not one goal kicked in this game from the centre bounce. Both teams kicked 0-1. So that's pretty crazy. There hasn't been a great deal of scoring from centre bounce so far this final series. It's goals become harder, and I think scoring from turnover becomes more and more the main source of scoring in final series, or at least it has been so far this final series. So that's why the turnover numbers are so important, because stoppage scoring becomes a lot harder come finals. It's just the way it is, and the numbers here certainly show that. We'll jump into player-by-player review now. As we said, Will Ashcroft, absolutely outstanding game, was the highest rated player this weekend and the highest rated player on the ground. Second highest rated performance of this final series so far, just behind Caleb Sarong last week. So he gets the 10 votes for the Brisbane Lions. He was fantastic. He kicked a couple goals in that first half. He ended up with 28 touches, 17 contested, 8 clearances, 2 goals 1, 11 score involvements, only player in double figures for score involvements in the game. Fantastic effort from him. Jared Berry gets the 8 votes. He was really solid as well. Outside midfielder, played maybe his best or very close to his best game of the season. 27 touches in these 5 intercepts, 8 marks, kicked a goal as well. Darcy Wilmot, the running backman, was the highest rated backman on the ground. He had a fantastic game, 26 touches, and continued a really good season. I think he's been fantastic this year, 8 intercepts. Next up, 4 votes goes to Harris Andrews. In a lot of ways, unlucky to be their 4th highest rated player. He played a fantastic game, one of his better games of the year. 20 touches in this one, 10 intercepts, 14 marks. Just a really well-rounded game from him. 5th best on ground, but Brisbane's 4th best, which just shows you how much better the Brisbane's top end were in this game. 2 votes goes to Hugh McCluggage, who had plenty of football as well. 33 disposals, 10 clearances. Really, really good game from him. Other good players, Dane Zorko rated as elite in this one. He was fantastic. His ball use most of the game was very, very good. He took the risks and they paid off. Sometimes they don't for him. You look early in that Geelong game, one of them was that, but you give that license to him because he is an elite ball user. Josh Dunkley, unlucky to be the 10th best on ground because of the fact that his defensive work was insane. 20 disposals, an all-time AFL record of 18 tackles in a finals match. So most ever by a Brisbane Lion player in any game ever, and most by any player in a finals match, beating the previous best of 16. So that's an incredible effort from him. He was running around with Matt Rowell for a lot of the game, and he just tackled and tackled and tackled, and it's a fantastic performance from him. Kyle Lohmann, rated as elite as a general forward. Losing the hair did not seem to bother him much at all. He had a really solid game, 13 touches. He had 4 shots at goal, kicked 3 of them. He had 6 score involvements and 12 pressure acts. He was good. Cam Rayner, really solid game. He was important when it mattered. They couldn't tackle him throughout most of the game even, and the commentators made sure you knew about it too. Only the 16 touches, but he was attending about 1 in 5 centre bounces, which I think is a really good amount for him. He really affected the scoreboard. He could have been better if he had kicked a bit straighter. He had 5 shots, 1 goal, 3. A little bit straighter. If he kicks 3 goals, 1, he's probably close to best on ground. Jasper Fletcher, really, really good from the back line. Then you got Zach Bailey was solid. He played a bit more inside mid this week than normal. Then we got Levi Ashcroft. He also played a bit more inside mid time than normal. Darcy Fort was their number one ruck, as he has been most of this year. Oscar McInerney came back into the team today, but Darcy Fort was definitely their number one ruckman and slightly rated ahead of McInerney as well. Darcy Gardner had a little bit of a bad start against Max King, but then they moved Harris Andrews onto Max King, and I think that was a great move, and Darcy Gardner was pretty solid throughout the rest of the game. Logan Morris started really well, had a goal early on in the match with a nice little snap. Ended the game with 2 goals. Didn't have massive impact on the game, but I mean, you get 2 goals from your second year key forward, you're going to be reasonably happy with it most times. Calamachi, solid. McInerney, okay. Ty Gallup, as we said, he rated pretty lowly, but he did have a really good period there in the third quarter where he kicked that goal. I think he laid a tackle, took a couple really good marks. And then most of the bottom end is Gold Coast players. You take out the starting sub, Bruce Revel from Brisbane, who was the lowest rated player on the ground, but didn't play that much of the game. Their next lowest rated players were Sam Marshall, 42nd best on ground, Ryan Lester, 43rd best on ground, Charlie Cameron, who rated as 38th best on the ground. I don't think it was a terrible game from him. He just wasted some opportunities in front of goal. His pressure work was really good. His work rate was fantastic, especially I think it was in that second quarter. There was a point where he did about a 150-metre sprint to get from the back line to the forward line and make a target for the team. He did turn it over a couple of times, but 3 shots at goal for 0-3 is the difference between him being probably 38th best on ground and probably around about 20th or better on the field. So that's a big... he's not far off breaking back into his best form, I don't think. Starkovic was lowly rated, but I mean, was he needed that much? The rest of their general defenders were doing a really good job. So that's pretty much the Brisbane Lions. We'll jump into the Gold Coast Suns now. Their number one rated player was Matt Rowell on the field. He gets the 5 votes in the MVP race, in their BNF and everything else I use the voting system for. Rated as 75.67, so slightly above his season average, which is about a 72. So a good performance from him. He just probably didn't have enough support around him throughout most of this game. Good numbers, just, yeah. I mean, he was above his average. You can't expect too much more from him. He had 23 touches, 14 of them contested. He had 6 clearances. He had 8 scoring involvements, 19 pressure acts. He did a lot. Miller was pretty solid in this game, above his season average again. Another player that was 28 touches, 12 of them contested. He went to 1 in 3 centre bounces, so he did start forward, but he did have plenty of inside mid-time, just the 2 clearances, but a solid enough performance from him. He was matched up with Dane Zorko for big chunks of this game, not that they were standing side by side too often. Sam Collins in the back line played a fantastic game. There's no doubt in my mind that he was a really, really good performer in this one. He gets 3 votes. I don't know what to say too much about Gold Coast. They struggled, but he did have 11 intercepts in this match, which was the most of anybody on the field. Next up, Noel Anderson. So he's their 4th best. He was 12th best on ground, 61.29 rating, so about 10 rating points off his season average. So kind of the reverse of Matt Rowell. Like, he wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. He kicked that early goal. He had 26 touches, but just didn't quite have the sustained full game that he has been showing over recent weeks, or pretty much this whole season, if we're being honest. Next best was Bodie Uland, who played a really good game, I think, in all honesty. He was that 3rd key defender for them. He's been pretty good all through the year. I think he's showing some really good signs for the future. A solid performance from him. Next up was Sam Flanders. What are they going to do with him going forward? Will be an interesting one. He had 20 touches, kicked a goal, but maybe just didn't have enough impact throughout most of the season, if we're being honest. Joel Jeffrey was next. Jared Witts in the ruck was okay. wasn't his best game. It was okay at best. Daniel Rioli, okay, without being fantastic. Moving through the rest of the team, we'll jump down to the bottom. Obviously, their starting sub, David Swallow, was lowly ranked. He didn't play much of the game in his final match. Same with Ethan Reid, who got subbed out. He only played 43% game time. So ignoring them, Ben Long was the lowest rated player to play more than 50% game time. Struggled to have much impact on this game. He's had a really, really good season, but this was, I haven't looked at exactly every game, but I would say that would be his lowest rated game of the season. Jai Farah struggled to have too much impact throughout most of the game. Lockie Weller was their next worst. And then there was a whole bunch of them. So Gold Coast had 31st through 36th best players on the ground. They were Fiorini, John Noble, Mac Andrew, Bailey Humphrey, Connor Butterick, and Ben Ainsworth. You're looking at quite a few players there that certainly average a lot better than that. You're looking for Fiorini. John Noble's had a really good year, but he struggled to really have much impact in this game. Mac Andrew rates better than that usually. Bailey Humphrey certainly does. Butterick and Ainsworth perhaps are not much above what they did in this game, but still a little bit below average in this one. Alex Davies, who was their best performance, highest rated player last week, ends up as 29th best on ground this week. So that's just the variance in week to week, isn't it? That's the swings and roundabouts of football, I guess. So, Brisbane Lions, they head to a prelim final against Collingwood next week. That will be an interesting game. Rematch of the 2023 AFL Grand Final. Gold Coast Suns are eliminated. That is the end of their season. We're going to move into how my tips went this weekend, and then we'll move into the preliminary final preview. So, my tips. We went Hawthorn by 2 points. They won by more than that. They won by 34, I think, off the top of my head. So, I mean, we get the tick. Better than last week, because last week we went 1 of 4. And we said Brisbane by 20. They won by 53. But we get both ticks, 2 of 2. We go to 153 out of 213 for the season. Much better week on the tipping front this week. So, pat on the back for us. Let's go 2 for 2 again next week. Let's see how we go. So let's jump into the preliminary final previews. Alrighty then, this is a lay of the land, how it stands going up into preliminary final weekend. Friday night football at the MCG, 7:40 kickoff, Australian Eastern Standard Time. It is Geelong Hawthorn, two big rivals going at it. Should be a cracker. Hopefully it will be a cracker. Obviously, if you don't go for Geelong or Hawthorn, I don't think you're going to be too invested in this game, but hopefully it's a good one. Obviously, a lot of history between these teams from 10, 15 years ago, when both teams were good. Obviously, Hawthorn have had a bit of a period out of the finals outside of last year and this year, but a little bit of a rehash into that. And then Saturday evening, another game at the MCG, 2 prelim finals at the MCG this year. So all 3 remaining games of the final series are at the G. It'll be Collingwood, Brisbane, 5:15 p.m. kickoff, Australian Eastern Standard Time, as has been kind of historically the way it goes over recent years. That early evening kickoff time, so 5:15, means the game will wrap up around about 8 p.m. On the Saturday night. That's Collingwood Brisbane. That will be an interesting one. Obviously played off in the grand final just 2 years ago at this same ground. Obviously Adelaide and Gold Coast are the 2 teams eliminated this week. We're going to jump straight into the previews of both of these games. Let's go Geelong Hawthorn first. I'll probably be releasing some more content later on the week on YouTube and on social media about these games, but this is our first thoughts. Obviously, I'm recording this on the Sunday, so there's still plenty of time before the game. We obviously don't have teams announced yet, but we got Geelong, Hawthorn. All Aussie Rules rating has them almost identical. Geelong a 1-point winner. That is crazy, crazy close. Looking at the numbers of the match, historically, last 10 matches, it's 7-3 in favour of Geelong. No real surprise. Geelong have been up towards the top end of the ladder for the last however many years, whereas Hawthorn since like 2017, 2018 sort of area have been quite lowly ranked most of the years. Geelong have won the last 4. They only met once this year, which was round 6. It was a 7-point win to Geelong at the MCG, so that might give you a good indication of kind of where this one will play out. Pretty close, I think. Last year they met twice. Geelong won them both. They met once in 2023. Geelong won that one reasonably comfortably. So you got to go back to round 5, 2022 for the last time Hawthorn beat the Cats. That was by 12 points. Don't let that sway you though, because Hawthorn this season, this final series even, have been breaking hoodoos left, right and centre. First of all, they won their first ever game at NG Stadium after going 0-8 up until a final 2 weeks ago. And then last week against Adelaide, they had a pretty poor record in that one as well and turned it around. So I wouldn't be too stressed about that fact for Hawthorn. It's going to come down to who performs better on the day. I think that turnover game is going to be huge, in all honesty, in determining who wins this game. I'm going to do a real big player analysis later in the week, and hopefully that will go up on social medias and stuff, comparing the teams and whatnot. But we'll stick with just the numbers and the stats, I guess, for now. Overall, Geelong probably have the better of most stat categories. This matchup, though, is probably the worst case scenario for Geelong. Certainly after winning a qualifying final and going straight to the prelim, the last one they would have wanted to be playing was Hawthorn at the MCG. It's for obvious reasons. Hawthorn play the MCG well. They have a lot of experience there. It turns this into close to a 50-50. I think Geelong is still the better team out of the two, but the needle's only just in Geelong's favour in my eyes. The market at the moment has Geelong quite comfortable favourites. Not massive favourites, but certainly comfortable favourites. I just don't see it, to be honest. I think it's going to be a lot closer than that. It's been a while since Geelong have lost a game, which is obviously a positive for them. Hawthorn have won most of their recent form games as well, and I mean, they've been playing some good teams. Like, they smacked Collingwood back in round 22. They beat Melbourne, which isn't that great. They only just lost to Brisbane by 10 points, although probably should have been more than that. But then, obviously, beating GWS and Adelaide, both of those games on the road in the finals, is huge. It's going to come down to minute details, I think, and should be an absolute cracker. We'll see how that plays out, but both teams have very similar clearance numbers, very similar inside 50 numbers, tackle numbers. They don't play that dissimilar football, if we're being completely honest. So the further you look into it, the more you think, wow, it could be an absolute close one. It's a lot of it's going to come down to, did the week off benefit Geelong or did it not? Obviously, they've only played the one game in like the last basically 10 weeks against a top 9 teams. So that was a really good performance, though, when they smacked Brisbane pretty much from the get-go. So make of it what you will. I think it's going to be a cracker. We'll do my tips in a minute, but buckle in for that one. Friday night footy. It should be a good game. The other prelim final is also at the MCG. Collingwood, Brisbane. Collingwood, pretty much very similar market odds to what Geelong are in this game. Once again, I don't see why, though. I genuinely believe Brisbane are probably the better team in this game. You look at numbers across the year, they kind of rate above Collingwood in most areas, I think. Collingwood, obviously, their numbers went way down in that rough patch late in the home and away season. If they're back to their best, they certainly can compete. But are they at their best? We'll find out a lot this weekend, I guess. Last 10, it's 4-6 in favour of Brisbane. So 6 wins to Brisbane, 4 wins to Collingwood. Collingwood had won 4 in a row from the grand final, so the grand final and then 2 in 2024, the first one in 2025. However, Brisbane broke that hoodoo last time out, which was at the MCG only a month ago, roughly, round 21, when they won comfortably by, 27 points in the end. They felt like they were winning that game the whole way through. So that is probably the best form line going into this game. Obviously, both teams are very different from that day. Collingwood made plenty of changes since then. It'll be interesting to see what they do with their lineup for this week. But, it's going to be a game that could go either way, I think. I think the fact that it's at the MCG probably does benefit Collingwood overall. Whereas if this was at the Gabba, I would be 100% on Brisbane. But Brisbane have travelled really well this season. So there's that to take into account. There's a lot to take into account. I think overall, Brisbane are probably the team that are going to win the clearances in this game. They're probably going to win contested football. But what Collingwood have done throughout the year is really good intercept game, really good defence game. They don't give up too many fast break sort of thing. What they do is they defend the ground and make you take the option they want you to take, which is generally down the line, long down the line. They want you doing that, and they will intercept it. They will outnumber and they'll try and intercept, or they'll kill the ball. The thing that Brisbane do really well, and I think this is how they beat them last time, and it's kind of how that they beat Gold Coast this weekend, is by taking that risky kick and hitting it. If you hit that kick against Collingwood, you will be able to get out. If you take that risky kick and you hit your target, you will get a very good scoring opportunity. However, you miss that kick, even by a little bit, there is a very, very good chance that Collingwood are going to kick it over your head and kick a goal. So that's what a lot of this game is going to come down to, I think, because Brisbane will probably win the clearance game. They probably will win the contested football game. They will probably win possession numbers and certainly uncontested possessions and marks and stuff like that. But Collingwood are going to be relying on their intercept game and their team defence and turning defence into offence. Will probably be a major factor. And if Collingwood can do that, they will be good enough to win this game. If they can't do that, they won't win this game. Pretty much short, simple, I think. That's how I see it. Anyway, final thing to look at. These are my tips for this weekend. No surprise, after all of that, we're going Geelong in a close one by 7 points over Hawthorn on Friday night. And Brisbane to beat Collingwood by 13 points on Saturday evening, which would set up a Geelong-Brisbane grand final the following week, which, crazily enough, is actually what my grand final prediction was at the start of season 2025. So if you go right back to my preview video at the start of the year, not the one from 2024, but the one a couple weeks, maybe the week before the season actually started, we did a full ladder prediction, which did okay. It didn't do fantastic. And we did a top four and grand final prediction. And we said Geelong premiers over Brisbane in the grand final. And we had Collingwood and Fremantle, the two losing preliminary finalists. So there's a good chance that we get 3 out of 4 right there with Geelong, Brisbane, and Collingwood, obviously 3 in the finals. Fremantle let us down. Hawthorn got in. I think we had Hawthorn 5th on the ladder. But, I mean, we're pretty close. So you got to give credit for that, I guess. It's going to be a cracking weekend of footy. 2 really close games, I reckon. These ones could both go down to the wire. I personally think the winner of the Cats Hawthorn will win the premiership this year. That's just how I see it. Doesn't mean it will happen that way, but that's where I'm at the moment. I don't think we've got too much else to talk about here. But before we go, don't forget to subscribe or follow, depending what platform you are on. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to leave a comment. Let me know who you think's going through to the 2025 AFL Grand Final. Don't forget to hit up all the social medias, All Aussie Rules, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Facebook, you name it, we got it. All Aussie Rules everywhere. Content going out every single day, so go check them out. I'm Jay. This is the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. That's another episode in the bank. We'll be back on Thursday to preview all the round 6 action of the AFLW, as well as review the round 5 action. And AFL Men's episode next week, which will be episode number 70 on Monday, we'll be looking at a wrap-up of preliminary final games and a early preview of the grand final. Which 2 teams will be in it, we'll find out this weekend. But that is everything I've got for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.